Anyway, so I really was, if I couldn't go to heaven, let me out of here. I was going to go the other way. Can't be that bad. I mean, God created it, so I mean, look at the positive side. Anyway, I want to thank Mother Mary, Mother of Divine Grace, because anyway, I came back to the body, and the feeling was, why am I here? Why am I here? And this guy said, well, we want you to clean up your life. I go, oh, okay. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't take drugs, I try not to lie, I don't cheat, don't rob. Clean up my life. What does that mean? I mean, I was trying to be honest. I tried to be a pure person. I tried to obey God. What does that mean? Cleaning up my life. And basically what he was saying was, if you treat everyone like I treat you with love, you'll be cleaning your life. You'll be getting closer to me. And I go, wow, that's a big order. And then, of course, Jesus came in, and he says, well, if you follow me, you follow his life of service, of healing, of teaching, of servitude. I go, but I'm not you. No, but you're one of God's children. So please serve the rest of God's creation. So I've been trying to put my emotions aside and serve God and thankful. Oh, by the way, when I came out of the hospital, the doctor slapped a living will on my chest and said, he's never going to be able to talk, he's never going to be able to walk, he's going to be a human vegetable so we want him not in the medical where we have to support him. So there's no way, because there was blood coming out of my ear, my nose, my mouth. I had a cracked skull. They figured my brains had spilled out. That's why they pronounced me dead 3 times, and there was no... Anyway, that's why I was in the morgue. Yeah, this body was dead. It was. But it didn't stop my argument with God about the tug of war, like you said. It's just the inside tug of war of what I felt. There wasn't a negative power, like you described. For me, it wasn't, or a pulling power going up to God. They were both present. And I was in the center, and I was, well, God, if I can't go into your heart, and then maybe I deserve to go down there, and maybe I can find my way back, rightfully this time, soulfully this time. I am so humbled. I've had so many experiences, out-of-body experiences, that I could share with you that justify the tug and war. I guess with my whole heart, I say, you're in the right place right now in your life. If you're trying to do the very best you can with your consciousness and your will, God's supporting you. He did me. It took me 4 years after being in construction my whole life. It took me 4 years to be able to tell you a tape measure where 1 foot was or 16 inches on the ruler. I couldn't tell you, even though I was in contracting all those years. They never thought. Anyway, God sent a healer, and by the grace of Mother and God. I was so fortunate that she came into my life, and she forced me, taught me about the Kundalini, about the life force coming up the spine, up through the spine, up into the brain, the different brains and how to work them. I had to learn how to talk, read, write. Oh my God, talking about excruciating pain. Every time I'd talk to somebody, she would look at me and say, that wasn't very nice. But I didn't say anything. That's the point. You didn't acknowledge them. There's a human being there in front of you, one of God's children. Did you validate them? Did you give them love? Did you hear their heart song? Or were you just doing you? I go, who else is there to do right now? Anyway, just to break up, when you come back from their near-life experience, you're kind of angry because you're not in heaven and you're here, and you're not the body, because finally you realize you're not the body. You're something much, much more. So, you know, I could tell you many stories. I guess God humbly took me through the trenches of life, where I had to re-educate myself, and I was in my late 30s, early 40s, about people and about His creation. Not just respect individuals, humans, but animals, plants, elementals. It seemed like everything. I had to relearn everything. Like I was born a child again, but with an older body who was obstinate. 2 years I couldn't walk, because every time I took a step, the blood pressure would be like somebody hit me with a 2x4 across the head. I mean, the room would start spinning like this. It'd take me 30 to 60 minutes to get out of bed, because the room wouldn't stop spinning. I mean, it was pretty bad. So the fact that I'm functioning is only by the grace of God. I owe my life to God. It's His. From that experience, I couldn't escape. Even if I was going to go to hell or to heaven, I was going to escape. He was there in both directions. So He's never going to be away from you. He's as close as your breath. And it was really true for me. And then for the journey that it's been since '92 and even before. But when you crawl, you realize that there's something more. And maybe I had to go down that far to realize that the more happens to be God and God's love. Not for me. Otherwise He wouldn't have put me through it. But for the love He has for His creation, which we are all part of. I don't know if that validated the near-life experience, but thank you for letting me at least share. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mario.
Thank you, Mario.
Can you hear me? All right. That was wonderful, Mario. Thank you. And we got plenty of time, and I'm gonna tell you about my experience, and then the three of us will come up here and take questions from the audience, if that's all right. My name's Ron Holloway, and in 1987 I was 35 years old, and so I'll tell you how old I am today. I'm glad to be alive. It's just a number to me now. You know, it really doesn't. Age doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because, but my life had screwed it up so badly that I was in horrible emotional pain, and I didn't think that there was no way out, and I didn't have any choices. So I took my wife's little .22 pistol and I shot myself in the heart. And I aimed for the heart, but I had bad aim, I guess. I went through the aorta, it went through the esophagus, went through the liver, and the bullet wound up in my spine. And it's still there today, and that's why I walk the way that I do with crutches, because I will always have that injury. And one of the things, let me tell you that I was miserable. I had no answers. It was complete bottom for me as far as this life. I just wanted to leave. I wanted the pain to stop. I wanted anything, and it was a selfish act. I agree with people when they say that, because I was so into me and my problems. I didn't consider my children or my wife or anyone that they may even miss me, because I didn't have a very good opinion of myself. I just thought maybe, hell, they'd be better off without me anyway, which is far, far from the truth. Every human being has tremendous value, especially to the people who love them. And I'm certainly not an advocate for anybody leaving early. And so But people won't hardly, my friends and things who have had that problem, they won't talk to me because they know I'll talk them out of it. You know. But what happened is that I shot myself. I was in the house alone. The doors were locked. And I was in all this emotional pain. And as soon as I shot myself, I thought I would black out. And maybe, I don't know what I thought, but I just didn't want to be here. And what happened was that the emotional pain was coupled in with physical pain, because it hurts when you get shot really bad. And so I had the emotional pain, I had the physical pain, all on top of that, the mental pain. And I got up off the couch and I walked, you know, probably 7 or 8 feet over to the phone where we had wall phones, you know, and I called 911 and I gave them my name, my number, and my address, and I said I shot myself. All the information that it was absolutely necessary for them to come and rescue me, but not one word more. And the moment that I said that, my legs went out from underneath me, and I found myself laying on the floor. And then, as quickly as that happened, in the twinkling of an eye, the pain went away. And I found myself standing up over my body, looking down at it, at the head. And then after a little while, I heard some people scrabbling at the door, and they came in and they got me, and they said, "Oh, he's still alive." And they put me on a gurney, and he took me up the little stairs and out. And then suddenly I was outside watching them load my body into the ambulance. And I had no attachment to that body. Okay? It was like they might as well have been loading a ham or something, because it didn't bother me that they were doing that. I was not attached to my body. I was totally and completely at peace. And I heard a female voice say, "Well, he's dead." And I heard a male voice say, "Keep working on him." Well, they closed the doors to the ambulance and they drove off. And I lived sort of up on a hill, and the road that was going into town was a straight, long, downward, gentle slope. And as it went down, I remember that as I watched the ambulance as it went away, I must have been rising, because I was looking down on the top of the ambulance, and I wasn't afraid. It was just like it was the most natural thing in the world. At that time, I had the only religious training that I'd had was I'd gone to churches a few times every time I needed to get somebody off my back, but I can't say that I was a religious person. I didn't have a lot of training. I wasn't raised in a religious home. We believed in God, but I didn't really have anything to do with God. I just work hard and work longer and do it harder, and things will get better. And it didn't for me. So I had no knowledge. I had no spiritual knowledge. I had no religious knowledge. And there was nothing that I did to warrant the gift that I was given. And I know today that, but I've had all this time to look back, because it happened so quickly that I didn't have time or even the inclination to analyze it. I know today that I had no questions. There was nothing that I needed to know. I was connected to the universe, and there was nothing that I needed to know. But I know that there was about 15 minutes between, because that's how long it would have taken the ambulance to get to the airport, to the hospital from my home. And I don't have a real clear memory of that whole 15 minutes, because like I said, I was rising, and I remember looking down on the ambulance, and then there was a crash, and suddenly I was back in my body. And I remember hearing voices, and I opened my eyes and looked up, and there was all these faces were looking down on me, and somebody said, "Look, he is alive." And they put I guess it was an oxygen mask on me, and I don't remember anything then for a long time. I woke up several days later in intensive ward, and they had, I guess, found out much later that they had extensive surgeries on me, and for 7 or 8 hours, and then I was in the intensive care ward for about 2 weeks, and it was really rough. But I don't remember a lot of that, and I was they had me drugged up because there was a lot of pain involved. But that's not so important. What was important today, that what I understand and what I remember about when I was outside of the body, is that peace. Okay, there was peace that cannot be described. It couldn't be. It couldn't be ever had. I've tried to attain that, with all sorts of things, with meditation, with hypnosis, all sorts of stuff. But I was more alive in those 15 minutes, and I was dead, than I am sitting right here. Everything was much more vivid. Everything was more intense, And I just felt connected, and there was nothing for me to do. There was nowhere I had to go. I didn't worry about myself. I didn't worry about my children, my job, my house. There was no worries. There was absolutely nothing for me to do. And I didn't see any beings. I didn't see, I didn't have any white lights or anything showing. But, I know today that I was given a gift, because I can remember that. Okay, if I'd have just gone out and I couldn't remember that piece, I wouldn't have had the dramatic change that I've had in my thinking. My thinking is different today. But I still had to get into a program of recovery to help me to understand what had happened to me. And I went probably 20-something years. I never talked about it. Very little. And then I began to sort of analyze that. So for me to, I have, like these guys have talked, I have no fear of death, because I know that when I leave, it's going to be really good. There is nothing for me to fear, because of, like I said, I was more alive during those 15 minutes than I ever have been in my body. So, I of course, I survived, and this was up in Anchorage, Alaska. I was in the hospital for 3 months, and they finally got me going. But I was so depressed. I thought they kept me in a private room the whole time, and I thought it was because I was special. But I read the doctor's report. They said, no, we didn't put anybody in there with him because we were afraid he would depress them too. So I was not happy to be back in the body. It was painful. My life was in tatters. I had no hope. I had no future as far as I could see. I had even screwed up killing myself. I had even screwed that up. And but there were loving people that were sent to me almost immediately who loved me no matter what, and they helped me to get my life together. And I'm grateful to those people to do this day. And it's like, not only did I have the experience, but then I was given practical teachings about what had happened to me, so that would become meaningful. And I think a big part of that probably is sharing that with people, because I've been taught that when something good comes along, I need to share it, because if I try to hold it, I'll lose it, and that to give it away, to keep it, is important for me. I don't know. That's pretty much my story in general. My life is very different now. I've not had a drink or a drug since April 29th, 1987. And that's the day I shot myself. I know I didn't have anything that day, but it's a day that I don't want to forget. It was the day that my life got rebooted, that I got, and it's completely different today. I was a rough and rowdy oil field worker I worked and drank and chased women and smoked cigarettes, and I didn't really care a lot about anything else. And today I have a huge extended family that I love and who love me, and my life is much richer today. It would never have happened had I not had that experience and gone through that pain and been able to get on the other side of it. The three of us have some things in common that I've already noticed, and that is that we have overcome our pain to where it's a life experience that we went through to have the awareness that we have. We're not defined by our accidents or by the incident that caused us to have our NDE. I think that's important, and that didn't happen overnight for me. I had to work to come to an understanding to get on the other side of it. Where I wasn't blaming. I wasn't wondering why did this happen to me. Today it doesn't matter why it happened, and today it did, and today I think of it as a gift that I had an insight into what happens after life. After this time. And I know that this is not life. Life happens when we get out of the body. That yes, we're alive and we got consciousness and all that, but everything for me was magnified. When I got outside of the body, it was a freedom that I can't describe. And I could try to describe it all day long, but one good thing is everyone will get a chance to experience that. And it's not a bad thing. There's nothing to be afraid of. When it happens, it'll happen. I don't advocate anybody rush it along. There's no need to rush it along, because it will happen for everyone. And you will have the joy and the peace and the knowledge and the absolute spiritual comfort that can only be had when we're outside the body. Yeah, doesn't get any better. So anyway, you guys want to come up and we'll answer questions? Come on up, Miriam. See what I do with it. You have it?
I have one here.
Yeah. There you go.
Go ahead.
You go.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
So who has the first question?
I got a question for John.
Okay.
Just curious about, did you have some sort of religious background history that you really believed heaven and hell, that kind of dynamic, and so when this happened, maybe that kicked in,
It's very possible. Very possible. Yeah. A good question. I was raised Catholic.
Can you repeat the question, because Mike doesn't have a mic?
Oh.
You know what we need to do? We need to let one of these mics
Yeah,
go out
okay.
into the audience. How's that? Yeah. Yeah. Mike, could you ask your question again, please?
but I was so articulate.
I know you did.
Yeah, it was
That was a
perfect.
dress rehearsal. Now you can do it for real.
No, my question is when you were talking about being torn in between and pulling down and pulling up, and I was just curious what kind of religious background you may have had that may have influenced your, thinking, your thought process through whatever, and that when that happened, maybe the part of that was what was kicking in.
It's a good question. I started saying I was raised Catholic, so it was kind of like the heaven and hell type of thing, and I think it more relates to when we were talking about the tug of war, between life and death, and or heaven and hell, and I think maybe that may have kicked in. I think that subconsciously, when I was getting pulled on that, it was a perfect 45-degree angle. Anyway, I don't know how I'm a carpenter. It was just like a speed square, you know. I was getting pulled.
Was it a
up this-
412?
Yeah, well, it was more like a 612. 612. Yeah, and I was getting pulled up, and I had that conscious thinking in my head that up is heaven and down is hell. I don't know where we get this from. It may be the opposite, you know, for us thinking, you know, it may be the exact opposite. All I know is it was an incredible experience, and it was one that I'll remember the rest of my life. And that I think the lesson that we learn is that when we have that out of body experience, that peace and joy that we feel is just incredible. You know, when I was released from that, I went from this pain level of probably over the Richter scale to zero in a second, and I think that was, and all of a sudden I was just like at peace with myself and the world, and it was like I had a pretty good life. You know, I kind of was going, well, I guess this is it. You know, is this all there is? You know, that song, you know, is this all there is? And I was kind of peaceful with myself at that, you know what, I had a good life. And then I started thinking, I think what happened is I got closer and closer up there, and I started thinking, I've got a lot of people that loved me and praying for me. In fact, there was they had a prayer, Gloria started a prayer request, and I says, well, what one church prayed for me? And she says, no. She says it was over 5,000 people were praying for me at one time. And and I think the power of prayer overcame the power of the negative spirit, and the positive came in, even though it was the same arm that pulled me back down. I don't know. I don't try to really analyze it or try to figure it out. All I know is I came out of it with a new outlook on life, a new, like Ron was saying, you know, that the love is, and Mario stressed it too, that this whole world is all about how much love we put into it, not how much work or how many buildings we built or how much money we have in our bank accounts and everything like that. Those things have disappeared because I think if you don't the faith that you know, I thought I had faith. You know, a lot of people think they have faith, and they until you go through something like this, and I think it just recharged me. I went from maybe a 5 to a 10 plus in my faith walk, you know, and I've dedicated more of my time to reading the good books. I also had, I'm also in recovery myself too, so I'll be celebrating 19 years without drinking a drug the end of October, and I got a spiritual kindergarten type of spirituality too. But you know, God is God, and he you know, I used to tell God how big my problems were. Now I tell my problems how big my God is. And that's, I mean, it's just everything is totally 180 from what it was before. And I don't know, I'm just grateful to be here. And you know, this life is like Ron's saying, you know, we lead these lives and we think that we're doing, that it's all about get the almighty dollar, get the work done, you know, drink and fast women and all this, and we missed the whole boat. We missed the whole meaning of life. And the next thing you know, you're 65 or 70 years old, and we're here to tell you our story that, you know what, there's a lot of life left in me, and by the grace of God, you know, and I know what could happen to me if I decided to go back to my old ways. I'd be a goner before Tuesday. So maybe Monday. I don't know. The guy up there. I don't make the plans.
So one more question, though.
Okay.
You say you have a church that you belong to in Placido and all
Yes.
that. Have you shared this story with them, and what kind of reaction do you get from
This is the
your
first time
congregation?
I've shared it with individuals, and I've never shared it with a group before because it was only a little over a year ago, and it was kind of are they going to believe me? Are they going to think I'm still on the morphine or something, you know?
I think you're strange like me.
They'll think that I'm strange like Ron here. No, I haven't shared it with a group. This is the first time, and Ron asked me last year, And I was really sick when Ron asked me, was it about this time of the year? And I was in and out of the hospital, and I just had been so fresh in my mind, I think it was better that I waited a while to tell it. But no, I mean, we're involved in the church up in Vicedo. It's a beautiful little congregation, and we're involved in there. We're door greeters or clean the toilets or whatever. You know, we stay involved in service in that area too. And you're all welcome to come up there 10:30 on Sundays. Second Sunday of the month potluck. So, you know, tomorrow. So we're going back up to Lemon tonight. And but thank you for the questions.
I was going to say there's a number of members of my congregation here at our church, so we can say you've already spoken in front of another church.
Yes, yes.
Anyone else have another?
Question for
Have a
Mario,
question?
or-
Can you get them?
Hello. It seems to me that you both have a common experience that you were in extreme pain prior to leaving your body in one way or the other. You fell and you had that, and then you were sad. So you went to this wonderful place of peace, and when you were rushed back into your body after that, after touching that joy, that peace that you both spoke of, all of you spoke of that so articulately that I want some of that.